Hey there, music students. Some of you were asking about, does it matter which order the bells go in? And the answer to that is absolutely. If you don't have your bells in order, it will be very hard to play music or hard to play songs because the bell you think you are hitting is not the bell that you are actually hitting. So I wanted to also call your attention to the whole step, half step pattern. So when we were talking about a major scale, I explained to you that a major scale is made up of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let's see if I can tilt it. So, do you notice how this bell and this bell are separated by a black key or a black space? That means that's a whole step. So from the white bell to the black space is a half step. But to go a whole step, you have to skip over that black key. So that this is a whole step. This again is a whole step. Then look at this bell and this bell are right next to each other. That's a half step. There's a whole step. There's a whole step. There's a whole step. There's a half step. That's a major scale pattern. Whole step, half step. Whole step, half step. And this is replicating what you see on a keyboard. So since this is a C major scale, my bells start on C and they end on C. This is what it's replicating. So from C to D is a whole step. And look at what is between them. That's that half step. Do you hear how it's a shorter space? There's less of a tone. It's hard to explain. So from here to here is a bigger interval. Then from here to here, this is a smaller interval than this is. So from here, C to D is a whole step. From D to E is a whole step because you can see this black key between them. But look, this is a naturally occurring half step on the keyboard. From E to F, there is no black key. Do you see that? That's a half step. E to F. That's a half step. But then we go back to our set of 3 black keys right here. And look, from F to G is a whole step. F to G is a whole step. And then G to A is a whole step again. Whole step, because there's a black key between them. That is the half step. From A to B is a whole step. A to B is a whole step. And then here is the other naturally occurring half step on the keyboard. From B to C is a half step. Okay? Now, if we were to play only half steps on the keyboard, it wouldn't sound like a major scale, which is our Do, Re, Mi song. That's a major scale. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. It would sound like this. That's what you call a chromatic scale. That means you're only going by half steps, so there are no whole steps involved at all. It's only half steps. Let's listen to that again. So we're starting on a C and we're ending on a C, but there's a lot more notes, aren't there? There are only 8 notes in a major scale. Let's see how many notes there are in a chromatic scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Actually 12 because C is repeating. Okay, so that is why we do need to put them in orders, because there is a low to a high, just like on a keyboard. So your bells should match a keyboard. So do you notice how I didn't have to hit any black keys? Because that's a C major scale. That's why the easiest songs are usually in C for piano. That doesn't translate into other instruments necessarily. So, but for piano, C major is an easy key to play in. Some of you don't understand what I mean when I say a key to play in. It's not really necessary to what we're doing as far as bringing music to children, but just for your own knowledge, let's say our first note wasn't a C. Let's say it was a G. Okay? Let's say we were starting on G. So G is this note. Well, we have half of our octave, don't we? We have half of our major scale, but we can't go any farther because this is a finite scale. It's only 1 octave. But on a keyboard, we could keep going. But you're going to come to find out why we have black keys. Did you notice I hit this black key right here? Why do you think I had to do that? In order to stay with the major scale pattern of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So if we go from G to A, that's a whole step. Okay, good. That's part of our major scale. Now the second steps have to also be a whole step. Next is a half step. Next is a whole step. Next is a whole step. Now, if I just went to this F, it would only be a half step and it would sound weird, right? Because you have gotten your major scale in your ears, stuck in your head, you know that that's wrong. Let's start on G and we'll play this wrong note and hear how it sounds. Does that sound like our Do Re Mi song? Nope, it doesn't. We have to play the F sharp in order to get that half step. So from E to F sharp is a whole step, and from F sharp to G is a half step. And that's fitting within that major scale pattern. Okay, let's try it again. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Okay, so that would be a G major scale. Let's try it on a different note. We could try really anything. Let's try E, just for fun. Now this is our 1. This is 1 now. So this is going to be our starting note. And we want it to sound like Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. So in order for me to do that, I have to make sure I'm playing whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So we've learned that from E to F is just a half step. So if I played Do to Re, that would sound bad. Do. Oh yeah, that's not it, is it? Do, Re, Mi, nope. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. I had to play some black keys, didn't I? Let's figure out which ones we did. E, F sharp, G, oops, sorry. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Let's start on a different note. Let's start on B. B is our first note, so that is now 1. Remember, we can sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. That's why we have these black keys, is to make sure that we can keep our patterns correct. Let's start on A. A is now 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A, B, C sharp, D. Oops, I'm so sorry. A, B, C sharp. That's right. Now we have to have a half step. D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So let's think about this. From A to B is a whole step. From B to C sharp is a whole step. B to C is not a whole step. It is a half step. So whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That's how we think about it. It's very mathematical and visual. So let's do it again. That is why we needed to know the whole step, half step pattern for a major scale. Because now you can start on any note in your keyboard. By the way, I was taught in my Montessori training that a teacher who incorporates music in the classroom every day should have a little tiny keyboard near their circle time area. And I went ahead and labeled it so that my students could play. And I will show you a circle time song that I have always done, and I'll show it to you in the next video. Okay, so I'll close out for now. Now you know the correspondence between the bells and the keyboard. Okay, thanks.